The research paper, the culmination of your composition course. When you go into your English classes last few years, you probably have this feeling of dread surrounding your research paper. Okay? This particular research paper, it should be the easiest one you've done. If you count up how many thousands of words have you written this semester already? Have you thought about that? Especially those of you who feel like you're not a writer, or you think you're horrible. But just think how much effort and how much time and how many words and pages have you written. It'd be interesting to kind of figure out who has done the most at some point. Especially those of you who have done your journals to their max potential. Historically, in my class, by the time we get through this, I hear more times than anything, that was easy. Because they're used to writing few pages. They're used to figuring out their arguments and presenting both sides. And this is an argumentative paper, and you've done this before. Okay, so it's not like we're doing a new type of writing. When we spent time in the analytical, the rhetorical analysis, okay, that was new. That was tricky. This shouldn't be tricky. Okay, and you get to write about whatever you want. And there are a few we call dead topics, topics that we don't want to hear. They're too easy to find, or they're too out there. We want you to do your own analysis on this and your own research. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's a lot of resources, just like all the other units, where I'm going to keep directing you back here. I mean, you've done this before. Okay, you've done researching since probably at the end of elementary school. Back then, it might have just been a one-page search or something. Okay, but with this, we are producing a 5 to 7 page paper. Okay, up to a year ago, it was 8 to 10. And then last year, I thought, you know what the things that I want you to get out of it, can you get those things in 5 to 7 pages? Do we really need 8 to 10? And so I thought and talked to my peers, and we decided we'll try the experiment of 5 to 7 and see how we do. So if you ever feel like you're just, there's no way I can fill 5 pages, which is ridiculous because we'll show you what to do. And if you pre-write and have your outline. But the 5 to 7 is not hard. Just imagine having to do 8 to 10, which I don't think so. Those of you that are going to go to college, you're going to have those, there are classes, term paper writing classes. There was one I had to take. It was a advanced expository writing. I think we did 6 to 8 research papers. The very first one was like 15 pages. At the end, they were all over 20 pages. Okay, so some of those classes, they get pretty long. But it doesn't mean, just because it's 20 doesn't mean that it was hard to write. If you do the same steps that we teach you and walk you through with this time around, the pre-writing, you figure out your outline. And if it's a two-sided thing, what am I going to talk about for this side? What am I going to talk about this side? And you have, your research, you have analysis, you include all of your, your transitions and your actual writing in it. It kind of gets done on its own. Okay, there is there isn't much creative writing with the research paper. How you go about presenting your argument, word choice, and fluency, that's where the creative aspect comes in. Okay, and hopefully you can show us a different angle to this argument, whatever argument you decide to pick. I like for you to pick fun things that are interesting to you. It just needs to be a controversial topic. A controversial topic that has 2 distinct arguments, for and against it, in support or opposition of it. And you have to present both sides well. Okay, and then ultimately at the end you're going to show us which side, in your opinion, because this is where your opinion shows up at the end, you're going to show us which side is the correct side. Okay? Everything needs to be school appropriate, obviously. There's a list of dead topics in the packet that we'll kind of breeze through so you can kind of look at. But we're going to focus the rest of today and tomorrow in figuring out and researching what topics you might like to do. So in class tomorrow, we're going to sit down and, in a forum, you're going to post your 3 top choices. And I'm going to say, okay, do this one. This is the one that will be best for you. No two people in here can have the same topic. Okay, so if you pick a popular one that other people are going to want to pick, you're going to want to get this into me pretty quickly tomorrow when I say, okay, let's post our topics and get it in there. Because the first person I see with it, they have the first shot at it. All right, so you'll want to come tomorrow. Your homework, in essence, is come up with 3 controversial topics that aren't on the dead list and that you might want to do. And my advice, and learn from this, folks, listen when I say my advice. My advice to you is do a little bit of research, whether that's the rest of today or you say, I have some homework tonight in comp. I need to do some homework and say, here are my 3 topics I want to do. Spend 10 minutes on each one and do just a basic, quick, preliminary research to see what kind of stuff you can find on both topics, both sides, A and B, pros and cons, that type of thing. Whichever one you're struggling with, get rid of that one right away. I'll have people, it happens every year, 3 weeks into this process, and we only have a month with it. 3 weeks in, they go, I just can't find any research. I'm like, all right. And? Well, I can't find any. I'm like, this doesn't sound like a question to me. Well, what should I do? Pick a new topic. You pick the topic, but there's nothing there. I'm like, you pick the topic. It's not like I assigned you something that had no research to it. There's research out there. You just have to look for it. Okay, we'll show you ways to do that. However, spending the effort now will save you headaches down the road. Does that make sense? Okay, so take that time, sacrifice that time tonight at home or in a study hall or the rest of the class when we break here in a little bit, and focus on, okay, I'm just concentrating, turn Facebook off, whatever, focus on this one potential topic 1, okay, I can save the links, I can look at those later, do topic 2, 3, and now look for the stuff. And remember, you have to show both sides, not just one. You might find a lot of great stuff about this controversy on side A, but not much on B. That could be a problem, because as we'll talk about, you're going to want a very balanced paper. Okay, you do not want one completely one-sided. It needs to be balanced. So, in the packet, if you want to follow along, it explains the controversial issue. Okay, 5 to 7 pages. This controversial issue has to have 2 sides. Whether you want to call it an A or B, a positive and negative, whatever. It has to have 2 sides that are, readily argued in the world, if not America or Indiana, wherever. The basics of this, you have your MLA format, obviously. I am not going to take class periods to show you, this is how we put an in-text citation in. You've done this so many times. I might briefly give a little tutorial on it, but more than likely, okay, because I'm not going to do it multiple days, I'm going to direct you to the resources. There are so many self-help resources that I put on this website to help you. I can't remember, how do we, well, look it up, answer it for yourself. Okay, in college, they won't help you at all. So I'm trying to train you for that. Okay, try to train you for it. If you have legitimate questions about something, please just ask, and I'll probably show you where it's at. But look for yourself first. Try to answer the question on your own. And there will be a works cited, obviously. There will be 7 sources that you must have. Okay, 7 sources, and in this packet, as you'll see, it lists there's certain requirements. You need 2 scholarly journals, so we'll go into detail on what that is, and so on. There are the list of the due dates. Okay, those of you with planners, okay, I would strongly just write those in. If you have to work backwards, look at when it's due. That's what I would always do first. Okay, you have, wow, almost a month to the day, don't you? Okay, and that will be due. Notice the rough drafts, when those happen and when those occur. Okay, the last week and a half to 2 weeks of this particular cycle, this unit, it's really just revision. Okay, the first 2.5 weeks, that's the research and the writing. If you fall behind, you will miss out on our revisions and our feedback. And hopefully you will have found that stage to be the most helpful over the course of this semester. Okay, and while it's fresh from our previous unit, hopefully you'll realize, yeah, I was behind and I missed out on that and that and that. Hopefully you stay up, and that's your motivation to stick with our deadlines. Okay? And there are penalties, just like with the other papers, penalties for the final grade if you miss your deadlines. So there is that repercussion as well, so stick with it. But write those dates down. Okay, you can see the first deadline is topic selection. Tomorrow, we're going to figure out what topic you want. Okay? I'm not here to brainstorm with you. That's not my job. I don't want to impose my thoughts on, ooh, you should do this, because I truly want you to pick whatever you want to write about. And something because if you have friends in comp, in the other classes, at lunch, brainstorm, figure out, hey, what do you write about? Oh, I was thinking about this. You know, I mean, controversial topics. It can be, you know, we have what do you call it? The kid pageantry shows. Is that good or bad for America? You know, showing these little kids and pushing them out into the world, and this Honey Boo Boo person. Is she famous for being a talented individual? No. She's famous for people making fun of her and her mom, isn't she? Isn't that why people watch that show? And thank you, I've never wasted a second on that channel or show. Okay? People make arguments, reality TV, is that the downfall of our civilization? Jersey Shore. Some of these others, maybe lump that in with the pageant shows. You see how you can make present day stuff. Okay? It can be fashion. Are models too thin? You've heard about this before, the cover image of women in magazines. How does that impact the everyday woman? Are models too thin? Well, models are dying. Famous models. There's one in Brazil a few years back who died. She had a known case of anorexia. But yet she still wanted to be a showcase model. And she died. Is that a problem? Yeah. Well, the model industry will probably say no. Because that's what sells. That's what people want to see. Why do you think they airbrush all these women on the covers of their magazines? Have you heard about this? They're airbrushed. No one looks like that. Think about it. I mean, those are just those type of things. Sports. Tons of things you could talk about. Okay? But here are some dead topics that we just don't want to deal with. Okay? For whatever reason. They're too easy, or there's too much stuff out there where you can not write it on your own. So we're just saying, you know what? We want you to be more creative than writing one about abortion. Whichever side it's on. You know, animal abuse, gun control, legalization of marijuana and drugs, death penalties, legalizing gay marriage, drinking age, steroids in sports, college sports playoff system. That, my goodness, we got that so many times. Okay, stem cell research, global warming. These are kind of the big umbrella ones. Pick something that's fun and interesting to you. Don't pick one that you think, oh, the teacher will like this because it'll make me sound smart. No, I never think that based on writing. Because I think some people are picking, because if I know you, I might, okay, they really don't care about this stuff. They're just trying to sound smart. Okay? Just pick something that's fun to you. Pick something that has two sides. Okay? In baseball, should the American League, both leagues, have a designated hitter? Because right now, one league has a pitcher hit, the other doesn't. Could I make an argument? Well, yeah, because there's an argument on both sides. Okay? So if you want to write one about sports, there's definitely stuff that you can do beyond steroids, and should there be a playoff system in college sports? What about salary caps in sports? You understand, those that know sports, you know what I'm talking about. You have the New York Yankees who spend $200 million. And it's kind of funny because they can't make the World Series. You have them blowing away $200 million a year, or you have a team that spends $40 million a year and they make the playoffs. Or less than that, and they just get whooped all the time by the $200 million teams. Should there be, you know, a max salary cap? Should there be a minimum where they force people to spend certain money? Because the money that these teams don't spend, they're pocketing and they're making money. Shouldn't they put that back into their team? Well, there's a yes or no argument there on both sides. Okay? So there are things out there. Okay? You know, should wooden bats be, you know, used in high school? Those that play baseball understand about that. Because the aluminum bats are getting too fast. The ball's coming off the bat too quickly and people are getting hit in the head. Killed. Okay, so should we get rid of aluminum bats altogether? So there are controversy things in different areas of thought. You just got to think about it. What's interesting to you? Okay? You like video games. Is there anything controversial about video games that you could write about? I know there was when I used to do video games when I was little. They're too violent. So-and-so lit my trailer on fire because they saw it in a video game. Whatever. Okay? Can you find things nowadays? What about music? Anything controversial in music? Surely there is. I don't know. With technology and such, can it pretty much make anybody a pop star? Auto-tune, all that stuff? Does that mean that the quality of music isn't what it used to be? You see how you can kind of create a controversy? As long as you can argue from both sides. That's what I want you to focus on. And that's where, if you spend the time now and tonight, you will be well rewarded come the next 4 or 5 weeks, however long it is. Okay? So make sure you spend that time and figure out, come up with 3, because I'm going to have you rank them and post them in the forum, and then I'm going to go through and be like, okay, I like 1, but I think 2 is going to be easier for you, so I'll let you pick which one do you want, 1 or 2. Others, I'll just go, okay, somebody else already has 3, so you pick number 2. Okay, you're doing 1, you do 3, you do 4, whatever. So you can have more topics. But remember, there's a race, and if there's a topic you're like, this is going to be awesome if I can do this, maybe not share that one when you're brainstorming with other people. You know what I kind of mean? Kind of hold on to yours a little bit. So topic selection is so important, okay? Here are a lot of links that can help you. Okay, a lot of links, including some debate links where the debate team here at school goes to find pros and cons, sides on different things. Different opposing viewpoints. A lot of things you can look around. If you wanted to go, see what's out there instead of just like, I can't think of anything. Well, here are the hundreds of options. Okay, so take some time and skim through those, and you might find them. So there's 2 pages of links, and each link has countless options where they're explained. What about drilling? In the national forest for oil. Okay, what about alternate fuel sources? Just different things like that. That's a big controversial, especially with the debates going on. If you've been paying attention, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of, well, we should do this or we shouldn't do this. What are they talking about? Pick a key thing if you want to stay more relevant and timely. Good. You will not be able to use any of those sites for the research paper itself. Those sites are just strictly to help you come up with a topic. You're not going to go back and cite those sources. Okay? Does this make sense? So that is just to find a topic. In order to do the research, you're going to have to go and do research, and we'll talk about, Insight. I think, isn't that what it's called? Inspire. Insight was when I was in college. It's close. So Inspire, we'll use that database. You can do web searching, things like that. But these particular links on these 2 pages you can't use and cite those as sources. Those are just helpful for you in your topic selection. The next page is just kind of a breakdown of a table of contents of what is in this packet. Again, this packet is so vital as a resource for you if you struggle at any point. Come back to this. Come back to the PowerPoints that are listed. Very, very helpful. It goes into great detail about the source requirements. It lists them that we'll talk about in a second. Plagiarism, what that is and what it looks like. Because sometimes you might not think it's plagiarism. You might not be doing it on purpose, but you are doing it. Oh, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know what the speed limit was. Well, you were still speeding. Well, I didn't know what. Ignorance isn't an excuse. You're still going to get a ticket. You still will fail. Okay? We caught somebody plagiarizing once they submitted this. 2 weeks before graduation last year. He didn't walk. Okay? So, it's stupid. Especially since the only homework you should have with this paper is tonight coming up with your topics. If you use your class time for the next month, you can't write a paper in a month. And with our little helpful deadlines that we'll have, it'll write itself as long as you're working. Okay? If you're sitting on your hands, it's not going to work. When I give you a few minutes to, hey, work on journals, work on this, and I see people staring at their screen, that's weird for a comp class. Okay? So there's a lot of staring. We're going to have issues unless you're reading your research. I understand that. Okay? But just an FYI. So very helpful. Come back to this table of contents. And again, there's the dates. If you miss your due date, so it's due on that Friday, if you do not turn it in by that End of the period, when it's due. If you're 5 minutes late, if you're at the end of the day late, you get a deduction, 15%. Okay? And that's before I even grade it. So when I see you on Monday, okay, let's just say it's due now, and you don't have it. You could turn it in 10 minutes, or you could turn it in the next day, and it's still 15% off. You have another day after that if you don't get it turned in, it's another 15%. I haven't even graded your paper, and you're 30% behind. Okay? You're just shooting yourself in the foot. This paper is 25% of your course grade. So, it's important. You don't want to take a third of a hit on it, okay, right away. If you miss the draft 1 and draft 2, each one of those drafts is additional 5% off. And that's before I even grade it. So let's just say I grade your paper at the end after you miss all this stuff and after you miss your drafts. Okay, I'll give you a 70%. Oh, and I have to take 40% off because you're 2 days late and you missed each of the drafts. You're killing yourself, guys. And usually those individuals that miss those dates and drafts are the ones who really need a good grade on it to pass. Just stick with and do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do in this class, and you will be fine. I told you on day 1, this class is easy to pass. You remember that? Because I said this class is also easy to what? Fail. If you just don't do anything. You have to sit in here for, 50 minutes a day. Just do the work. Piece of cake. Okay, suck it up for 50 minutes. This thing will get done, I promise. And you will be surprised at the end, those that do what I tell you and listen to my advice. You'll be like, that was the easiest paper I've ever written. Bring it on. Okay, and they actually are happy and excited when they turn it in. It's not like, oh, take it. All right, everything is electronically submitted. You will not turn in anything. Okay, you'll post it. Your sources, I'll show you later on how to save them. So when you do your web searching or you find PDFs, you'll make a folder in your H drives and save everything into that folder. And so then I can go into your H drive when I grade and look at your different sources. If you want to print them out and print them out and have copies so you can highlight, that's fine. If you want to turn that in, okay, you don't have to. But if you still want to highlight and pull them out, print them out, that's totally fine. Just print them out to the library where printer is and do front and back and save paper. So big key information in this particular section. Choosing a topic, here's some more information to help you. But remember, do the research beforehand. Source requirements, pay attention to this page. You need 7. Okay? The only main aspect of this that's important is that you need 2 professional journals. And when you get in Inspire, okay, people keep forgetting about what this is. Like, well, I got it in Inspire. Inspire is just a database, folks. Inspire is just a search engine connecting to all of these other databases. You got to look at the source that it brings up. If it brings up USA Today, Journal Gazette, is that a scholarly source? Is a newspaper a scholarly source? No. Okay? A scholarly source pretty much is an educational journal. It's by a scholar, because the review process in scholarly material is much different than a newspaper. You go out, you write your story, you have an editor read it, maybe make some changes, boom, they print it. Most scholarly journals, if I'm a professor, I'm writing this topic, maybe with some other professors, I submit it to the publication. Typically, the review process is they take that paper and they pass it off to a bunch of other scholarly people in that discipline, in that subject area. They go through it, they fact check it, they give their comments, it goes back to the writer, they make their you see how it's hard to mess up? It's very well thought of, okay? You need to find 2 of those. Most of them have the word journal in the topic. And once you find them, they will be obvious. But that's something that people every semester still struggle with, and I don't understand. So let me know what you struggle with so maybe I can explain it in a different way. Okay? Just because it's an Inspired doesn't mean that it is scholarly. Newspapers aren't scholarly. Newsweek, Time Magazine, those are quality publications. they're not considered scholarly sources. Okay? So keep that in mind. And that's some of the biggest struggle, especially if you pick a very, very most recent event to talk about. You might struggle. But when you do your research, here's the thing. People will do a research. My topic is this. So you do your search over this. And you might not find much. But break it up. My side A, side B. What are the things I want to talk about? What are the things I want to talk about? Then you research those things. Research topic A, topic B. Okay? And those usually pop up and hit some results. Don't just go, whether I should spay or neuter my dog. I don't know if that's very controversial. Maybe you can guess. So that would be your topic. Maybe you can't find anything on it, which I bet you could. Okay? Well, talk about maybe the pros and cons of it and start researching those aspects and those search terms, key terms, and you might hit something. Don't just type in your sentence of this is what I'm talking about or researching. Oh man, there's no facts, nothing popped up. Well, you're not trying very hard. Okay? You're not trying very hard. Break it down. You're smart. You've done this before. Don't get lazy with it. Okay? Good. So you have 2 professional journals, and then you have one other. And I'll talk more about this down the road. You are going to conduct one interview or a survey. Now, be careful with this because, well, I'm going to interview my friend. Well, what good is that going to be if you're doing some global policy issue between China and Russia is your controversial topic? And what's your 17-year-old friend going to do? What expert information are they going to give us? Okay, probably not a lot. The people that you interview, if you go that route, need to add something to your paper. They need to add something. Okay? Not that you can do the drinking age one because that's on the dead list, but if you talk to an attorney or a judge, if you have a family friend, we had that last semester, not for the drinking one, but they knew a judge and they interviewed that person to give some insight into, can't remember what the topic was, but it was something, legal related. Okay? You think that's credible? Does that add some substance to it? Absolutely. Asking your buddy Jimmy or your 12-year-old sister at home, hey, what do you think? How is that helpful? It's not. It doesn't add anything. And we'll talk more about that down the road, about what the requirements are. The surveys, okay, coming up with a multi-question survey. We'll go into greater detail down the road about what that looks like. Okay? The same amount of questions and effort realistically are being made, whether you do an interview or whether you do a survey. Because with a survey, you're going to have to get at least 30 people to sign off. Okay? And then that gives you a bunch of data and things to include. So you have 2 scholarly journals and then either an interview or a survey. That's 3. That's 3 of your 7. You only have to find 4 other pieces at minimum. My advice is to find as many as you can and then start weeding out maybe some of the repeating research, but get rid of some of that other stuff. Okay? Well, spend time, and that's what we're going to be working on this week, is accumulating this stuff. But you got to find your first thing, your first topic. Good. Here's some information about how to copy and save your sources. Okay, into what file? I'll demonstrate that at a later point. I believe there might even be a link in a PowerPoint or PDF on how to do it back out on Moodle. Good. Some more researches, places. Our Destiny, our library thing here. You might find some stuff. Some of the more current event things you might not find in our library, but Inspire would be very helpful, and we'll be able to do that. Excellent resources. Some internet places with EDU, Gov, those type of things. Very, very helpful. Avoid encyclopedias and avoid Wikipedia. Okay? Those aren't things that can be cited as sources for us. The only thing I would use those for is if you are unsure about some topic, even though you want to research it, and you need a quick summary, because that's all it is. It's just kind of summary. Okay? You want to find things that are more in-depth and analytical and argumentative about these 2 sides. Okay, that's where you want to get most of your information from. So you kind of want to stay away from encyclopedias as much as you can. And here's the section on avoiding plagiarism. Okay, how direct plagiarism looks like, and even paraphrase. There was a University of North Carolina football player who just got busted in the last week plagiarizing an 11-year-old's online forum post. They showed a side-by-side comparison. He changed a word here. He flip-flopped these two words. It was almost word for word. Plagiarized an 11-year-old's little paper. It was a response about some farming and the type of chickens and the eggs they lay. It is sad. I find it funny, but that's sad. Okay? But plagiarism, stay away. So that guy's just wrecked because of a kid. Here's some examples. Sometimes people need modeling to help, or visuals. Maybe you're not understanding my lectures or whatever. Here's some a nice little visual to see a side-by-side what is correct and what's incorrect, and you can kind of see how they paraphrase or the direct quote. So come back to this. It's very, very helpful. Here's some more information on thesis writing. Okay, if I haven't hit you over the head enough with that over the last few papers, or those PowerPoints from the earlier resources, you can go to those, you can come back here. But remember, it's a blueprint for your paper. And we tell you here what it is not. Sometimes looking at what not to do is a good way to learn what to do. Okay, so take some time to go over this, and we'll talk about thesis in a couple days and write your thesis. But ultimately, what is a thesis? So what it is, what it isn't. Nice bullet point, good review for you guys. Okay, so a lot of information. Your works cited, what your works cited should look like. Okay, there's a great example. Great example. On the Moodle page, there are PowerPoints. Okay, there are student samples. So take some time, look those over, compare yours to theirs, model yours after theirs. There are websites to help you. Okay, so it's not very difficult, and you've done them a lot. Just make sure you do them correctly. So we'll have time with that. We'll spend time writing an outline. That will be the most helpful step in this entire process if you listen to me and you do what you're supposed to do. If you do what you're supposed to do, then it's just plugging in gaps, and your paper just wrote itself. We'll talk about this next week. Okay? But there's a lot of helpful things about what an outline is. So if any of you want to work ahead, any of you are, I got everything done. Boom, boom, move ahead, do that. And then here's an example of what it looks like, not just what it is. Okay? Couple samples. Parenthetical citations, how to cite within the text. Okay, there are a bunch of examples, different types. So very helpful. Keep this thing open. Maybe save this to your H drive so you don't have to get into Moodle in order to access it. Very helpful. Good. Good. And some frequently asked questions. All right. So for tomorrow, think of your topics. I just came at you with a lot of information. Sum it all down. You need to be able to argue two sides. Okay, you're going to have your introduction with your thesis. You're going to start talking about side one. Then you transition into side two. And then you give us your opinion as to what the paper is, in your opinion, what the correct argument is. And you demonstrated that in your paper. And then you wrap it up in your conclusion. That's it. Every paper should follow that formula. That's what an argumentative paper is. Side A, side B, and then here's the right answer. Here's why side A is correct and side B is wrong. So your opinion shows up in two places. Your thesis statement, that's it. And then that last part down there where you're talking about after both sides have been explained, boom, here's the correct answer. So wait, we get to put opinion in this? Well, if you haven't been listening, yes. But just in those locations. Okay? All right.